I'm Lloyd Campbell, and I'm the host of this. And what I'm going to do is turn this over to the person who's going to actually be answering all the questions and giving some insight about what we should be doing in membership. The important thing is we only have less than 45 days to really make an impact this year. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Alex Johnson.
Thank you very much, Lloyd. And I want to thank everybody on our webinar today. Over these last month, this month in June, we are focused on the singularly important topic of helping clubs retain members. Traditionally, Rotary loses the majority of its members in the month of December and the month of June. And so our goal with these webinars is to give you tips and resources so that you, as a club member, can talk to your club members that you don't see very often, get them engaged, give them a reason not to leave your club. So that way we don't experience that big hit in membership that has happened for 100 years of Rotary. So we would like to make that difference today. So with that said, we have a very esteemed panel of assistant Rotary coordinators on the Rotary coordinator team. And everybody on this team, I think you should know, they represent different districts all over the U.S., very skilled, very experienced, very knowledgeable in membership. And our whole team's responsibility is to help your districts grow in memberships by supporting the clubs. So what I'd like to do is introduce each individual panelist, and if they could tell us what their role in the team is, what district they're from, and their club as well. So first, I'd like to introduce Debbie Tam.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. My name is Debbie Tam, and I'm from District 5870. My role here on the team is the Assistant Rotary Coordinator. I work with district membership chairs in looking at their membership and ways to increase membership. And I'm part of the Northwest Austin Rotary Club.
Excellent. Thank you, Debbie. Next, I will introduce Barbara Bartle.
Good evening, everyone. Barbara Bartle, also an Assistant Rotary Coordinator. I'm from District 5650 and a member of Rotary 14.
Rotary 14. What city is that for those of us that don't know?
Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska.
I was going to
Very proud to be the 14th oldest club in the world.
Hey, that's an honor. Well, thank you, Barbara. Next, I want to introduce our good friend Sridhar.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am from Rotary Club of Appleton in Wisconsin, and I PDG of District 6220. Right now, I am functioning as an Assistant Rotary Coordinator for my district plus 6270 and 6250.
Excellent. Thank you. And last but not least, our good friend Blaine Johnson.
Thanks, Alex. Blaine Johnson. I am an Innovative Club Advocate, or ICA, for those acronym-loving Rotarians out there. Hail from District 5580, which is all of North Dakota, northern Minnesota, a little bit of Wisconsin, and up into Ontario, and a member of the Bismarck Rotary Club in North Dakota.
Excellent. So see, we have this all-star panelist. We have two from Texas, one from Minnesota, one from Nebraska, North Dakota, and Wisconsin. Phenomenal. Well, what we're going to do today, each of the panelists are going to talk about different elements of membership of what you can do at your club to keep your members from leaving and to get them more involved. So first, I'd like to bring back at the podium Debbie Tam. The rest of us are going to turn our screens off, so Debbie's the speaker. And if you could go ahead and talk to us a little bit about immediate steps for retention, Debbie.
Yeah, so really immediate step right now is to have the finger on the pulse, to really know what's going on with your members. Make that personal connection, that one-on-one connection that, most of us really thrives on. And so there are many ways, of course. You can, create a committee that will make phone calls to the Rotarians that have not been participating in your meetings. And you should have an idea of who they are. If you take roles each meeting, or just have an idea who you haven't seen in the meeting lately, reach out to them and just say hi and see what's going on and make that connection, because that really makes a difference. Having that personal phone call and shows that you care and you're concerned about them, or engage them. Say, hey, is there a way to engage them? Maybe they're not happy with the club that they're with, or the activities or the services that is being offered. Have a good understanding. Maybe there's something that they can do within the club to get more engaged, right? And the whole idea is help them become a Rotarian. We don't want people just to be a member. We want them to be a Rotarian. And what does that mean? Just make it a difference, so that they feel like they are part of an organization that gives back, and that they're able to provide service to the community that, the reason why they join Rotary for. So that's what I would do, is make that individual connection.
Thank you, Debbie. That's very, very, very important points. And I hope everybody on the webinar has taken notes and talked to their club members about actually doing that. Can you tell me, what immediate actions can clubs take to prevent member loss as we move into this new Rotary year?
So as I mentioned earlier, right, it's just having that finger on the pulse. Hopefully, you've been watching the webinar, you've sent out surveys, you know where your members are at in terms of, how they feel about the club and the direction, and start talking about implementing some of the steps to work towards making some changes, if that's what's needed. And if they say, well, they're just not happy, well, why? Understand why, and then maybe they really don't understand what Rotary is. And so you can help explain that, or maybe just having a conversation will change somebody's mind.
That's a really good point. It's interesting how many club members don't think about doing something as simple as that. We get used to the people we see at our meetings. We're like, oh yeah, this is great. We're such a great club. They don't think about the people they don't see, and those are the ones that leave. Can you give an example of a successful quick win that a club can do from a retention point of view?
Sure. So, my club, what we did was we had a committee of 3 or 4 people, and we identified a list of Rotarians who have not been attending the meeting in the last couple of months. And so they reach out to these Rotarians, and I happen to call one because I have some specific question for this individual Rotarian. And I said, hey, I haven't seen you for a while. What's going on? What's going on in your life? And turns out that they're going through some lawsuits. And so that's taking up a lot of their time. We talked about the family and just had a great time catching up. And I mentioned the fact that, hey, I really would love to come see you. I know you got so many things going on, but we all miss you. If you would come, we would love to see you again. And, maybe that's what you need, just a step away from all that's going on in your personal life and get reconnected with the Rotarian. And so guess what? The following meeting, he showed up, and it was great. And he really appreciated the fact that I reached out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's kind of interesting how simple that is and how we don't actually do it. And it really comes about just somebody needs to make those calls. We got to quit sending emails. Emails are not going to hack it. We've got to call people, let them know we care about them as an individual. And that's really a very obvious but an easy thing to do for us to help on retention. So I hope that everybody on this call, you're going to start, if you're on this Zoom, you're going to reach out to somebody in the club that you haven't seen recently, so that way they know that you care about them, and there's less chance that they'll actually leave Rotary. Debbie, I want to thank you very much for your sage knowledge. And next, we're going to bring up Barb Bartle. She's going to share with us how clarifying members' roles and expectations can help in retaining club members. Take it away, Barbara.
Thank you, Alex. Well, I'm going to focus on volunteering and organizing service projects, talking to friends, just thinking about how members can feel connected and responsibility for the success of the Rotary Club and how you help build that in your clubs. I think right now, one of the things we do in our club, this is the perfect time of year when we know this drop-off is coming. Every spring, as the new president of the club is getting ready for their year, we sign up for our volunteering for the following year. So that includes community service, club service, all of our service. So, I mean, there's so many choices that you can get involved with. And if we can see then who's not signed up for any of our activities, and we can work, chairs can invite others that have not signed up yet to be a part of that. So this is a really great time of year to focus on volunteers for the following year to get signed up now. I think another thing that is important is that new members get connected right away. And so we're still, some clubs are still like our club. We still have the red badge to blue badge. And there's lots of activities and volunteering that members can do so that they fulfill their red badge and become a blue badge member. So that's a big part of our club. I can talk more about that, Alex, and that might clarify some of the questions you have. But really getting involved in volunteer and inviting others to join is a big part of, I think, helping others feel connected.
You came up with two great examples that happens in every club. Well, the first one happens in every club. We're preparing for the new year, and the new president's identifying people to be involved, volunteers. And usually we are going to people we know. And those people we know are the ones that aren't going to leave Rotary because they're already part of that 80-20 rule. It's almost like you kind of gave me this great idea. Well, this is a great opportunity for the president to go to these new members or the people that he doesn't know and reach out to them and ask them to actually get involved in one of the volunteer activities that they're going to need for his new year. Then that really makes them feel like they're needed because, a Rotary Club is a family and everybody has a role in a family. You could also look at it as a team and everybody has a role in a team. And if you don't know, if you're not a player that's going to get off the bench, you're going to probably leave the team. And so I love that example. And then you brought up another one. Your club does the Red Badge program, basically a new member orientation. Not all clubs do that, but what's great about those new member orientations, it does kind of give people a bigger view of Rotary, explains how the club fits in with the district, gives them an overview of opportunities that they could volunteer. And statistically, we know clubs that have a new member orientation program or a Red Badge program, they have a better retention. And it lets people understand what their roles are. And so as we talk to our attendees here, if your club doesn't have a new member orientation program, talk to your district membership chair. They'll be able to help you. And our team will help them because there's programs already in place that your club can adopt. And it's a great way of helping people understand their roles. That was great, Barbara. Let me ask a couple questions if you don't mind. The first one is, how does clarifying roles contribute to a member satisfaction and retention?
Well, I think the key for retention is that the member feels like they belong. And that means they have to get connected. Sometimes you come in because a friend asked you and maybe that's easier because you already have a friend there. But I think, how do we help members feel like they belong? And so again, I go back to getting them connected to a committee is really important. And the other thing that I want to not forget to say, so maybe it belongs in this section, but you know, the new Rotary International strategic plan asks for district chairs for membership to put together committees. And what we're doing in our district is we're trying to get all of the club membership chairs to be the committee. So our district chair works with all the club chairs, and then you can share ideas. So build your district membership committee, and then great ideas are going to be shared, which hopefully lead to trickle down to membership, and members are going to be having new experiences because you're going to learn from other clubs in your district. But belonging is so important, and I think I talked about that really in my first part. I mean, we have dozens of opportunities to volunteer. We really try to get our new members to be greeters right off the bat, and we have greeters at many doors. So there's lots of opportunities to be greeters. And then the service committee, get involved in a project. And, I think belonging is the key.
It is. You know, I love that idea of having all the club membership chairs be part of the membership committee. That is phenomenal. Because as we know on our team, most clubs don't have a membership chair. And so creating that committee and just asking, that makes the club say, oh, I could have a membership chair. That's why when we have our membership Olympics, the first Olympic game is have a membership chair. Then the second one is have a goal. You know, and so getting them to have a chair, because if your club doesn't have a membership chair, that means the responsibility falls on the club president. And the club president has way too many things they're responsible for. So delegate to those new members. I love that idea of all the club membership chairs being part of the membership committee.
Well, I'll just add, Alex, I'm just going to add there that it also gets that chair involved. You know, if the president's doing, too many things, other people aren't getting involved. And so It's really key even at the chair level to get more people involved.
I remember I joined Rotary 21 years ago. I was in my mid-30s, and I had been involved in other organizations before Rotary. And so the president asked me to be program chair. I didn't even know what the programs were, but they knew I knew people, and that's what got me involved. And then I actually did exactly what you did. I recruited other people in the club, so we actually had a committee of 12 people, and one person would be responsible for the programs in the month. So I delegated it out, and it got me involved. I got other people involved right from the beginning, and 21 years later, I'm still involved. So I actually thanked her a couple of years ago, just saying, if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't have done the different things in Rotary I've done. That's phenomenal, Barbara. My last question for you is, and you've kind of given some, but what methods have proven effective in communicating role expectations to all club members?
Well, clearly the club newsletters, the chairs, asking volunteers to serve, the spring volunteer recruitment that we do for everybody to sign up to be on committees. From time to time, for instance, we serve meals at our homeless shelter once a month. And at a meeting coming up before that, they'll say, we need more volunteers for X night. And so you hear about it at the club meeting. So there's just a lot of ways. We also have had, depends on the president from year to year, but we've also had Rotarians give testimonials about the impact that their volunteerism has had on their Rotary life. One of the things I did that you made me think of, Alex, was I think that we should even think about recruiting new members to do specific jobs. So if you know someone has a passion for, I don't know, riding bikes, you could ask them to be on the Polio Plus bike fundraiser before they even join, so that they can see themselves, a role for themselves to become a member and what they could do as a member. Or if you need a chair of a specific area, you could ask someone, say, we need this, and you've got the skill sets. I think you'd have a passion for this. So I don't think we necessarily have to wait a period of time for somebody to be a Rotarian until we ask them to step up and serve in a bigger role or serve in a role.
Anybody who's ever heard me speak, that's what I really encourage is have a service project, get the community involved. They don't need to be a Rotarian, just let them volunteer with you, just like you said, so they can feel what it's like to be a Rotarian. So when somebody feels service and they're doing it with people they enjoy, they're going to be asking you, how do we join this? How do we be a part of it? And so that's like right from my own heart. I totally agree with getting non-Rotarians to volunteer with us. And so that way they feel Rotary, and then they'll stay with us. And that really applies to these newer members as well. If they have been associated with your club through service from the get-go, they're going to stay because your club is still doing the service. Most people leave because they don't feel like they're doing why they joined Rotary. A lot of people join Rotary for service. If their club isn't doing service, then they leave. So create opportunities to get people involved, let them know how they are important to your club, and they'll stay because everybody wants to feel needed. Barbara, thank you very much. You have such a wealth of experience, from being a Rotarian, from being a governor, now being an assistant Rotary coordinator. So we appreciate you bringing that to light to everybody on our webinar.
Thanks for asking me, Alex.
You're welcome. Well, next we have the infamous, the famous Sridhar. And Sridhar is going to talk about proactive leadership intervention. And Sridhar, maybe you could tell us why this is a good topic for you. Maybe because you have a little experience outside of Rotary in this area as well. So take it away, Sridhar.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for the introduction. Yes, it has been my bailiwick for the last 40 years, in the sense mine was one of the earliest dissertations on transformational leadership. And so for a long time, even in Rotary, we still look at any leadership position as a management, basically. We have so much time, we have so many resources, get it done and get out, the best we can. So my emphasis is on proactive. So when you think of proactive, I think of Wayne Gretzky. When Wayne Gretzky said, I do not go after the puck, I position myself where the puck is likely to come. So leaders are those people who can see the future. They study the trends and they position themselves. From there on, they want to convert others into leaders. So there's actually a process of making themselves unnecessary. Now, how do we take our people to become transformational leaders? There are some specific strategies and specific behaviors. And I certainly am a big fan of the Rotary vision statement, which Stephanie and team came up with. Look at that, how much of it is proactive, where you have to take action to create lasting change across globe in our communities and in ourselves. That's a very powerful statement. And we have the formula test plus fun. I think we have enough framework and a model where there are specific behaviors that you can think of. When you ask me follow-up questions, I'll follow up with some of those specific actions. But it is suffice to say, good leaders know how to engage in charismatic behaviors. Good leaders are good in individualizing, addressing the Me Too issues of members. Good leaders are those who stimulate the intellect to think differently, come up with creative ideas. And finally, they are inspirational. They use this vision statement and share personal stories, ask others to share personal stories, and show what impact we can have on others and impact on ourselves. So that is what proactive leadership in my book is.
And given that you've been doing it for 40 years, I think you've got a pretty good book to quote from, Sridhar. So tell us, I love the fact how you've connected being a proactive leader to what we need to do in Rotary and how it's going to impact retention. Can you tell us how leaders act proactively to specifically address retention issues? More specifically at the club level, because we have close to 100 people here that represent clubs all over our 10-state and parts of Canada. How can they be proactive leaders to have an impact on retention?
I think membership retention is influenced by not a district membership chair or an ARC or a president or the club chair. It's impacted by all of us. So that means the entire leadership team, including the non-membership people, have to take responsibility, whether you're in public image or foundation. Every moment you are trying to increase the retention, you have to be able to keep these people. So in order to understand why they are leaving, we have to broaden our own thinking. And do you attend webinars like this? Do you go to training programs? Do you go to district conferences, institute, where you can learn a lot about what is happening in other parts? It might not have come, the storm might not have touched Appleton, but it has already touched Nebraska, right? So this is where you have to educate ourselves. We have to educate ourselves in those forums and network and learn. Don't reinvent the wheel. They know what is happening and what some of those are successful strategies. Second, I think mentorship is absolutely important. And I go back to what I said about transformational leadership. You are trying to make leaders out of them. So if that is so, there are very simple integrative processes. In other words, when you go to a club meeting, don't sit with the same people. Take those new people and introduce them to other people. Inform them. Again, we are all familiar with, you tell, I forget, you teach me, I remember, involve me, I learn. And that's very, very important. So take these new members and the dormant members with you to those projects and involve them. So these specific leadership behaviors, there are some more which we can think about. So, and we have really underrated and underplayed the role of orientation, member orientation. Oh, someday, let's have 6 members, we will do it en masse. By the time it is 6 months, and this person is still wondering what DMC is, right? So, in other words, it has to happen quickly. You don't have to wait for 1 full hour of PowerPoint presentation to the new group of people.
Exactly. We all have too many PowerPoint presentations. What I loved is one of the examples you brought up was Zone Institute. A number of people will be going to Zone Institute in San Antonio, and specifically, as you mentioned, sharing ideas. At this next Zone Institute, every district's going to come with their district membership plan, and as a group, we're going to collectively improve it, optimize it, put actions there so that way we can help the clubs. And having 23 districts in attendance is just going to provide a wealth of knowledge and experience. And that's one of the greatest values I see out of Zone Institute is just having so many just smart, intelligent people help all the other districts. My last question for you, Sridhar, is can you talk about specific leadership behaviors that you've seen that positively impact retention rates? Once again, at the club level, because that's who our audience is, club members.
Number one is communication. Absolutely. No, in such a structured atmosphere, we show up 5 minutes before the meeting starts. And then there is a structure, there is very little interaction. So I think the communication is the biggest piece. And if you are occupying the podium, again, storytelling. I love listening to stories. So bring those people who have had the service experience, who have done great impactful work in the community, listen to their stories. Learn from them. Take site visits. The club should take site visits and go and see what impact their donation. We should stop being just a check writing club. We have to get our hands dirty.
Thank you. That is just a phenomenal just input on what these kind of leadership behaviors are. And so, Sridhar, I want to thank you very much. You're probably the leadership expert on our team. And so it's great that you kind of bring your outside of Rotary expertise to help each club level or each individuals at the clubs and the districts as well. So
thank you, Alex. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, our next panelist is Mr. Blaine Johnson out of South Dakota. My bad.
North.
Oh, it is North. Flip on your video.
I can't. It's been disabled. But there we go.
There we are. We see
the host has disabled me. And number one, it's not very fair for me to be following Sridhar, who answered not only his questions really well, but started to dive into mine and to cover the communications topics. I think one of the important aspects when it comes to communication within Rotary and Rotary clubs is to realize that communication is really about fostering relationships. And we've heard that throughout the webinar this evening. We've heard communication being used to connect with members that have been absent by picking up the telephone and addressing them personally. We've heard about mentorship opportunities where you're sitting down at a table across from a new member and explaining what Rotary is by communicating those values. We've talked about communication and establishing the relationship between a club president and the club members in the process and course of that club meeting. So realizing that communication is really about fostering that relationship and developing the connection to make Rotary Club members feel like they're welcome, feel like they're engaged, feel like they're involved is absolutely vital to club member retention and growth. Second important aspect, and this goes all the way back to elementary school and creative writing, who's your audience? Who are we directing our communication to? And realizing that the messaging may be different from an internal communication where we're talking to our club members versus an external communication where we're reaching out to the public in general and sharing information about Rotary. And we tend to dive into Rotaries, right? And using these acronyms that the general public simply just does not understand and doesn't engage with.
You mean like ICA, ARC?
Yeah. What's an ARC or an ICA?
Cats.
Right.
L's.
So, really identifying that audience and crafting the message to communicate directly with that audience. As a DG and going through, my little club spiels, I had the privilege early on in that little dog and pony show to have a communications professor in the audience. And he came up to me and he goes, it doesn't matter what you say. Communication is all about what we as the audience understand or have understood you to say. So we need to make sure that we're communicating with the audience in mind and really diving into the fact of what they're looking for and what they need out of the message. Communication is a two-way street too. So we should not only be messaging, but we should be listening and seeking input and response from the members that we're talking with.
something I'm surprised you didn't bring up. One of the reasons I wanted you to cover this particular topic, when I saw communicating club value and impact, I was thinking visioning. And I know you have a tiny interest in visioning.
But that's the next question, man. You're ahead of yourself, right? Know your audience. So go ahead and ask it. Let's follow up with that. I mean, I'd love to talk about that.
Definitely. Tell us about the communication techniques that are most effective in conveying a club's value.
Right.
And kind of tie that into some of these larger initiatives that the different people here might take advantage of.
And you touched on club visioning, which I have been a huge proponent of for the last almost 20 years. Since the very first time I was involved in it as a very young 20-something Rotarian. Club visioning is a process where you get a group of Rotarians together, cross section of the club, young, old, male, female, leaders, chair warmers, the whole body, to gather their input on where they want the club to be in 3 years. So by doing so, you're able to use that knowledge base and gather the information from that cross section to develop what your club brand is. You get to decide who we are as a club, and really that helps develop the message that then goes out to not only the general public, but to the internal club members and say, this is what our club stands for, right? This is our club value. So that's one great way of at least determining the framework for that message, but also getting the input and having your Rotarians become more engaged because they're communicating their wishes, their desires, their objectives, and their reasons for being members to club leadership to develop a plan that encompasses their ideas and their vision and where they want to go, right? Communication's a two-way street.
Unscripted question. If somebody wanted to learn more about club visioning, how would they, if their district hasn't formally adopted it?
So each zone has a club visioning representative through the International Visioning Facilitation Council, IVFC. Reach out on Facebook, reach out on the IVFC website.
Can they reach out to you personally?
Absolutely. Call me, email me, message me. I'll get you in touch with the right people. Club visioning is a program that's been developed over the last 20, 25 years. It's in most of the districts, or at least in most of the zones, I should say, across North America, but expands into Australia, the Nordic countries, Norway, Sweden, Russia, even a little bit. And quite a few other areas. So it's a great opportunity to set the direction of where the club is and facilitate in a very structured framework communication between both leaders in the club and general members. So we're gathering their input. And that addresses the follow-up question that you've got for me too. But to touch on a couple other communication techniques besides club visioning, Sridhar mentioned the storytelling aspect. Storytelling is a fantastic means of driving the message. I think recognition is a form of communication, right? So if we're in the process of standing at that lectern or the podium and thanking those club members that were engaged in a service project or that led a successful fundraiser or whatever it may be, making sure that we communicate our club value of being appreciative and thankful and recognizing the work creates a little bit of a FOMO or fear of missing out attitude in other club members, right? So if we have a service project and things were great and everybody that participated had a good time, we want to communicate that message to everyone else that wasn't there. So the next time we do this, they're going to want to be there. Third thing is leveraging other channels, right? So especially when we're looking at external communication, great example, our club recently did a kind of a citywide road cleanup, right? Keep Bismarck Beautiful. So we had public members sign up to participate, and they'd pick up their little garbage bags. They'd be assigned an area. They'd go clean a park or street or whatever it might be. It's also an election year, so we've got 8 different candidates for city park board, and each one of those politicians connected with this service project and was promoting it through their own Facebook pages, their own marketing, to say, well, what a great campaign to keep our parks beautiful and vote for me, by the way, as well. But we were able to leverage their networks, their connections to facilitate our own service project and really tout the benefit of Rotary in the community. So leveraging those other channels and those other sources and other people's networks and Rolodexes, if you will, is vital to really expanding the reach that Rotary clubs have in your communities.
I love that. Your previous comment talked about the fear of missing out. That reminded me when I was a new Rotarian, the club I was in at the time, every quarter they would recognize Paul Harris Fellows. So they would say, everybody that's a Paul Harris Fellow, stand up. So you had all these people standing up, and they would say all these great things. And so after a few months, I'm like feeling like a loser because I wasn't standing up. So I'm just like, how do I become one of them? And that's how I became my first Paul Harris Fellow, by them just recognizing all the members. And I was my first year, and I'm just like, I want to be recognized like them. For
sure. I don't necessarily condone guilt trips, but whatever works, right?
It wasn't guilt, it was recognition. I wanted to stand up with everybody else. But it worked. So that was, I think, the second question do I even need to ask it because you covered it? How do they ensure these messages resonate with both new and long-standing members?
Yeah, I'll just touch on that really quick, Alex. I think, number one, club visioning works really great to get the cross-section of information and recognize the ideas of both new and long-standing members. I think in addition to that, we kind of take for granted the celebration of a new member. Right. We promote them as the new member. We have them come up and get their pin and give them their little certificate that says I'm a Rotarian. We have them do a new member spotlight or showcase. We should be doing those same types of activities for the Rotarians that have been in the club for 40 years and haven't done a classification speech in 4 decades. Right. We want to know what they're up to and what they're doing and the impacts that they're having on the communities as well. So kind of mixing up that new and long-standing member and just recognizing the importance. And I think that recognizing those long-standing members also gives new members a little bit of something to look forward to. Right. This is an organization that somebody's been a member of for 40 years, and there's a reason for that. Right? What kept them in there for 40 years? So they're able to share their own story, the storytelling, the communication, building the relationship, and really kind of resonating both with new and old. It also does a great job of bridging, if you will, some of the newer and older traditions and making sure that there's understanding with the new members of why we do what we do for some of those clubs with long-standing service projects and fundraisers.
I think that's significant. We hear from different clubs as they're transforming to be more inclusive of the new generation. We have some of the veteran Rotarians saying, what about us? What about us? And I always say it's not an either or, it's all. And so it's really important to recognize the veterans, keep them involved, and allow them to be in leadership and mentoring roles so everybody knows there's a place on this team for them. Excellent. Thank you, Blaine. If I could get Debbie, Sridhar, and Lloyd to turn on their cameras, we're going to go ahead and answer some of the questions from the audience. And we have a few. So let's go through, and I'll just let all of you decide what you want to answer. Valerie Smith asked, what is your quick recruitment explanation of what Rotary does and why they should join? I know I keep it simple. I say, Rotary, we serve the community, and why you should join because you want to serve the community with us. What about everybody else? What do you say? Everybody has.
I think with any type of elevator speech, it should be short and to the point. And I think you're right. The thing that Rotary is noted for is service. You can bring in some other things, but usually they just want something that grabs at their heart. And once you have it, move on. You can't oversell.
I borrow from Rachel, our major donations officer. You don't make an ask for money. You make an offer. Here is your opportunity to make an impact on the community you so love, and we will help you do that. And there are a lot of people who are committed to that.
Excellent. Blaine, I see you about to speak, and then Debbie too.
So I'm always reminded of Michelangelo Caruso's statement, Rotary is the best decision I've ever made. Right? Just a very clear, concise statement. And then the follow-up, of course, is, well, why? Because I want to know what that best decision was. As a young Rotarian, I think my explanation generally, especially if I'm dealing with a younger generation than I am now, having been in the organization for 20 years, I remember the ability to connect with business leaders and like-minded people in a fashion that I would have never, ever even crossed paths with these individuals, but for that Rotary Club meeting. And that opportunity is immeasurable. I mean, it's so valuable to build those relationships and connections, just because of a unifying membership within an organization. So it opened doors. It really did.
100%. Debbie.
Oh, for me is purpose, my purpose, and feeling good. Like, I joined Rotary because I can give back and I give service, and it allows me to sleep well at night, knowing that I made a difference in the community and in this world. And that's really, for me, and I would ask, well, what would make you feel that you make a difference, right? You know, what are you doing today? And so start probing into that and kind of lead them to say, hey, here's a perfect opportunity for you to do that. So that's what I would do.
Let's let one person answer this one. Valerie Smith had another great question. Are there events that bring Rotarians back in to get involved? Anybody want to take that one?
I can take that one.
All right, go for it.
Social activities, social events is a perfect opportunity to do that. Because we talk about the 4-way test, right? How many of you actually said, what is number 5, right? Is it fun? And so let's bring fun back in. Let's have a fun activity, a social event, and then reach out to those Rotarians you haven't seen for a while and personally invite them to come. It's about communication. It's about connection. And social events are a perfect opportunity to do that. They remember why they joined Rotary, how fun it is, and, you know, they will come back.
Thank you. Okay, we have our fellow team member, Deb McCaslin. She asked the question, when you facilitate your signups, are you specific to projects or committees or both? I wonder if she was asking Barbara that. But somebody else could answer. Blaine, I see you shaking your head.
Well, I was shaking my head. I think that was Barbara's question. But communication is know your audience, right? So whether you're signing up for a committee position and getting people engaged that way, or if it's a volunteer opportunity, a service project, and getting people to lead that, I think, you know, you're specifying what that particular task is in getting them to sign up. So I don't know. I suppose you could do a general, do you want to participate in the club somehow, engagement sign up form, but I don't know if that's going to get you very far down the road.
All of the above. Kind of speak it, give them a way to sign up for it, and continue personally ask them. We have Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous attendee. That's ominous. I'm not familiar with the Red Blue Badge program. Is there an article I can read about this? Who would like to take this one? Debbie, your district has just put out a formal one. Would you like to take this one and maybe provide a link? Because I'm sure Jim's got it on the website, right?
Sure. Yeah, we actually have one. And even within our club, new members, when they come in, they are a red badge. and they're given a list of items that they need to accomplish in order to get rid of their red badge and have the formal blue badge. And so you can craft it to be whatever that fits the club, right? It could be part of a service committee, visit another club. We have like in-club service activities that they can do. And of course, giving classification talk is one of those. So you can craft it to be whatever, but I'll be happy to share what we do at our club and also our district.
In general, we call them new member orientation programs. And then a lot of times we have the badge thing. Now, Debbie, your district is 5870. Is this on the website?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I have not checked. So, if not, I will ask Jim Henry to put it up there.
Perfect. Hey, Valerie Smith, again, is Rotary contacting local media? Tell me something good on NBC5. That's actually a public image question, and the answer is yes, they do. And I would go through Kyle Hagen, who's the current regional public image coordinator, and it will be Patrick Harrison starting July 1st. And they're more in tune with the different initiatives that Rotary International is doing with local markets. That's a really good question. That is something they do. Deb again. Man, Deb is our favorite audience. Once again, if you have questions, put it into Q&A. I see people putting their hands up. We're not calling on hands, so type it in the Q&A section. Deb said, love the committee chair as part of the membership committee. Love the idea. Yes, that was Barbara's idea, and that was a great idea. Howard, who took Emily Tucker's place? Well, Emily was promoted a couple years ago. She is now manager of regional membership development. She has a couple supervisors. The current regional membership officer temporarily is Sarah Diller until they hire the new person. And your district membership chair, who for Howard, you're at 5810, Rita Castillo, and obviously Debbie Tam is her assistant Rotary coordinator. They can help you with that as well. Deb, again, when a passion for a certain area is identified, this is a spot on for Rotary recruitment. Polio, human trafficking, for youth of area, spot on suggestion. Actually, it's a great reason to start a new club too. Some of our most successful new clubs are passion oriented, as district leaders know, because I just sent out a bunch of reports today. Valerie Smith, our other favorite audience member with questions. How do you work with chambers of commerce in your club or district? Anybody want to take that? Go for it.
Yes, actually, from time to time, we have had chamber executive director being a member. I say time to time because there are changes and they leave. So a more rewarding and a more continued association is possible if we identify some of their programs and offer to work with them. To give you an example, we have what's called Leadership Fox Cities. They train about 35 leaders every year. The chamber, they have a program. So asking to come and share what they're doing, and that is a potential pool for recruitment from that class. Similarly, you can go to them and say, hey, you run this. Can you do a day on service clubs? We would like them to come and visit us, and we would like them to join us on service projects. So some of those things work, but again, chambers of commerce are notoriously political, and people come in and go. So continuity is a challenge.
Great response. Okay, Chris Knapp was more making a statement. Harish, how many districts participating have increased membership, and by how many? We seem to be losing members in our district. Harish, I'm not sure what district you're in. I would encourage you to reach out to your district membership chair. They receive membership numbers monthly, and they have access to reports, or they could pull it at any time. And so contact your district membership chair, and they will be able to answer those kind of questions specifically for your district. Now, I will say in general, most districts globally are losing members. And that's the statistic for Rotary in general. For our zone pair, we do have a few districts that are at a positive. Now, with that said, we always lose members in June. So even though it looks like your district, everybody here has been a district governor, and they know you're celebrating in June, then July you're crying. That is why we're doing this webinar, because it's not a district problem. This is a club scenario. Club members need to talk to other club members, and that's what makes them stay. And so for us to stem the bleeding that always happens in June, we got to talk to our members. That's why we're having these webinars on this topic. And so I hope that answers your question, Harish, and you're right. We not seem to be losing members. We are losing members, and we're trying to correct that. Valerie, another question. She says, how does Rotary manage budget on the club district side? I'm obviously new. Well, the answer is they don't. Clubs maintain their own budget. Districts maintain their own budgets. Rotary budgets are more from a guidance perspective. And so in terms of you trying to find out your world, talk to your club president, and they probably need a treasurer if you're interested, and talk to your district. Debbie happens to be her treasurer for her district. And so they're all separate nonprofits that manage their own budgets, and RI does not have control over it whatsoever. We are managing a 1.4 million cats. We're 520 district cats. I hope that answers your question. Valerie, the new membership chair. Awesome. Well, we love you. Clubs that have a membership chair traditionally do well in membership. In Colleyville, that's 5790. Kurt Bartley is your district membership chair, and Debbie Tam is the assistant Rotary coordinator over your district. So definitely talk to Kurt and talk to Debbie, and they will help you be great at your job. Well, everybody, we appreciate the questions. It is 6:57. So what I'm going to do is turn it over to our amazing host, Lloyd Campbell, who I think is going to save us. I will actually just fall on the sword. We tried something different. I'm not used to being the tech guy and moderator, and I did not hit my record button. Lloyd says there's a way for us still to capture this recording. So Lloyd is the hero of this. So with that, I will turn it over to Hero Lloyd.
Oh, I'm not a hero until it's actually done. So save that. When we look back at all the webinars that we've done, there have been just some almost invaluable information that's come out. But this one was very particular it was so much information. And when I saw that note that it was recorded, we will make sure that we find some kind of way to get that information out to you. But I want to sum up a couple of things that I thought that was so important. And because we only have a few minutes left, I'm going to be very short. I know how Blaine is sort of blinking his eye. He said, Lord, being short. Debbie brought out a very important thing. How important it is for us to know our members and just simply do surveys. Barbara talked about the need of belonging and doing service projects and feeling commitment. The thing that really shocked me has been a part of me for a long time is the idea that is how important it is that Sregar brought out. It's important to be a visionary. He said in so many different ways, it sort of struck you that, yeah, he's talking about being proactive, being a visionary, and how important it is, and that would stop help stop the bleeding. And of course, Blaine ended up by talking about how important communication is and getting people involved and just the visioning process. It struck me because when I became president of our club, that was the first thing I did. And it had such a dramatic impact on membership, on participation, on so many different things. So if we do anything from this meeting, make sure you think about a visioning thing. Make sure you think about getting people involved, and you will not have a problem with retention. And I know that we have a few seconds left, so I'm going to end this by saying thank you for participating. We have one more of our 3 webinars segments talking about how to end the year strong. So look forward to seeing you in June. So have a good evening.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.